So when it comes to Martin Scorsese's body of work, people often talk about Goodfellas, or Casino, or Wolf of Wall Street, or movies like that. Gangs of New York always seems to fall to the wayside, and I might be going against the grain here, but Gangs of New York is one of my favorite Martin Scorsese movies. Let's see why. Hey everybody, my name is Brandon, aka the BrandoCritic, and on this channel it's my job to point you in the direction of movies worth checking out. So if that interests you, definitely hit like and subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel. And today I'm here to tell you why I believe Gangs of New York is still worth a watch today. So in Gangs of New York, our story takes place in the mid-19th century and starts with a brutal battle between the native Protestants, led by William Cutting, aka Bill the Butcher, played by Daniel Day-Lewis, and a group of Catholic Irish immigrants known as the Dead Rabbits, led by Priest Vallon, played by Liam Neeson. The battle ends as Bill the Butcher kills Priest Vallon in front of the priest's son, Amsterdam, and declares the Dead Rabbits outlawed in the 5 Points of New York. After running away, Amsterdam returns 16 years later, now played by a young Leonardo DiCaprio, to avenge his father and kill Bill the Butcher. So in film school, yes, I get it. I talk about my film school experience a lot. I get that, whatever. But we talked about world building a lot, right? When you're making a movie, especially a period piece, you really gotta get the details of the world right, because you're trying to create an illusion, and we need the audience to be sucked into this world that we've created. Gangs of New York has built a world like no other I've seen on film. And just from the opening, when you see Liam Neeson talking with the young Amsterdam and the music is swelling and they're walking through the catacombs underneath New York City where all the dead rabbits and all the Irish are living, the set design, the production design, and just the feel of the world just feels so dirty and such a grimy, hell-ridden shithole that it gives shivers down my spine. The costumes, the accents, the time period really feels like it's come to life. And you see the civil unrest during that time period, right? You had the Civil War going on, you had the draft, and you just felt that injustice from the law, the police department, and there was no sense of order. There was no sense of direction in New York City at that time, and it really is a piece of hell. But for some reason, there's that really dark beauty to it. I would never want to live in New York City in the 1860s. Maybe if I'm living in one of those really nice, rich mansions. But even still, when you see Cameron Diaz steal from the rich people, you're like, oh my God, even I'm not safe here. This place does not feel safe, but there's that really dark beauty to it, which it's very hard to explain. Maybe it's just because I am fascinated by that time period, but Gangs of New York, the world building, just the aura that it creates for these characters to interact in, it's just beautiful. And who runs this hell-ridden shithole of New York City? Bill the Butcher. Now, I've said this on my channel a couple times. Daniel Day-Lewis is a force to be reckoned with on screen. He is fantastic. I haven't seen all of his movies, but goddammit, I want to now. Bill the Butcher is such a terrifying villain. And just simply put, if you hate the villain, if the villain comes on screen and you are scared of him, if you fear him, you automatically want our hero to succeed even more. And that's why we root for Leonardo DiCaprio, because let's be honest here, and this is one of the flaws of the movie, and I will fully admit that, is that Leonardo DiCaprio and Cameron Diaz to a certain extent, their characters are not the most interesting of characters. They're not the most fleshed out, they're not the most eccentric, they're not the most flamboyant. They don't have that same screen presence as someone like Daniel Day-Lewis. However, like Harry Potter, and like Star Wars, right? Luke Skywalker and Harry Potter, they're not the most well-rounded characters, right? Ron Weasley, Hermione Granger really steal the show. Princess Leia and Han Solo, I would argue, are more interesting characters than Luke Skywalker. Sure, I'm your father, yada, yada, yada. But my point is that we have these characters as sort of blank slates for us to attach ourselves onto them, and they act as a vessel for us to enter this vast new world. Right? It's not them going into this everyday life. We're going into New York in the 1860s. And we need that character for us to sort of project ourselves onto so that we're able to maneuver through this crazy, crazy world. So in that regard, he's not the worst character in the world. And for this particular movie, I think he does service the story really well. But let's talk about the story. It's that classic Scorsese story, right? You have that one guy who has it all. And of course, greed and his ego are eventually his downfall. And add on top of that, it's the simple, you killed my father, I'm going to avenge him storyline. It's very simple. But again, it's the world that this movie creates that steals the show. So think of it like a movie that you've seen before, but with a really nice coat of paint on it. And what a coat of paint that is. And even though I get that there's flaws in this movie, like I said before, this movie shows us that America was not founded by a bunch of guys with wigs in rooms going, today we will have the United States of America be the greatest country in the world. We see through this movie that it wasn't quite like that. It was founded in the streets. Yes, I get it, that's really the slogan or the tagline for this movie, but I think it does its job perfectly, and I love this movie. I'm giving Gangs of New York a 5 out of 5. Yes, it's not perfect, but I still love watching it. I watch this movie quite often. I'm actually surprised about how often I watch it and how many times I'm recommending it to people and saying, hey, want to come over and watch Gangs of New York? It's a movie that has a world that I always want to revisit, even how shitty the world actually is. I wouldn't want to live in this place, but just the world that this movie creates is so mesmerizing. I cannot say enough about the world building in this movie. I love it so much. And even though the story is very simple and the characters, other than Bill the Butcher, are not the most well-rounded, as a whole, I think it really, really works. And I get it, it's an unpopular opinion, but I really love Gangs of New York, and I hope you do too. But what about you guys? What is your favorite Martin Scorsese movie? I'd love to know down in the comment section down below, and I'd love to hear your thoughts of Gangs of New York. But if you like this video and you want to see more videos just like this, then definitely hit like and subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel, so thank you so much in advance, and thank you so much for watching. Take care.